Welcome to part 4. In this episode, I'm going to be solely focusing on what is wrong with the charging system. The new alternator arrived, so I'll start removing the stock one. While this one did test okay at the parts store, and I confirmed this by letting the truck run without the battery connected, I'm going forward with replacing it as part of the complete power system upgrade. And in its place, I'll put in a single wire, internally regulated alternator from PowerMaster. This will also allow me to eliminate the external regulator and a few extra wires. While unboxing the new alternator, I was able to see right away it wasn't the correct part. Besides it looking different, which could be explained due to a different style or something, all the mounting spots were different. This model is also a single belt pulley as opposed to the dual on the original. It's not really that big of a problem because I don't have air conditioning on this truck anyways. And to be absolutely sure it's the wrong one, I need to inspect all the mounts. Measuring the body with and without the adapters further confirmed I had messed up. So that's probably another multi-week setback.
Yup!
Guess I'll change gears again and inspect the cluster now. And you're likely asking, well, where's the GoPro footage of you removing it? Well, there you go. Yep. Another one. Alright, quick visual inspection of this cluster. Pretty dirty here in these crevices and stuff. I guess that's sort of expected for something this old and uncared for. And taking a look at the back. Yep. There's my problem. So I grabbed the cluster from the 85, and at first glance, the charging indicator did look to be in better condition. So being hopeful, went ahead and pulled it all apart, and as you can see here, the studs for the gauge are still intact. After getting the gauge nuts and the board screws removed, pulled off the board, and quickly saw I wasn't really in better shape with this cluster. All the plastic is melted around the studs that I thought was better. But, since the studs are intact, maybe it still works? Alright, now to disassemble the 78 cluster as well. I want to clean it all up, get all the dirt off, and repaint these gauge needles also. I do believe I found the source of that smoke. It appears this gauge got so hot, it melted the studs into the plastic. Alright, so gauges are out. The one from the 85 is on the right, and the one from the 78 is on the left. The gauges from the 78 appear to have quite a bit of rust pitting on the faces. I need to clean off the dirt in the gauge cluster, and that's trapped behind this clear plastic. So to get those out, I needed to break the back off. I guess it's kind of a plastic spot weld or something. And that black gauge cluster, I just rinsed it off in the sink. Everything came right off. So this charge gauge, not quite much to it. Honestly, I don't even know how they work. My sort of uneducated guess is that it reads what direction the current is flowing. So I used a Dremel with a small wire wheel on it. Used that to clean off all the metal to metal contacts. And hopefully, cleaning up those contacts, plus a new alternator, all new wiring, hopefully it finally fixes the issue. To recoat the gauge needles, I bought a few different flavors of glow-in-the-dark paint to test along with some plain red from my Small Humans supplies. I think this orange glow-in-the-dark is really going to make it pop. Alright, time to reassemble the cluster now. These little blue light diffusers go in under the circuit board. Then the clusters go in, and they receive power from the board via super thin copper washers. And to reattach the clear plastics to the bezel, I use some super glue and a little bit of CA activator so it gets set instantly. And for all the cluster illumination lamps, I ended up swapping out the old incandescent bulbs for a set of LEDs. Hopefully this makes the cluster a little bit brighter at night. Alright, fingers crossed. Let's get this cluster installed and see if that gauge finally works. Oh yeah, at some point I slapped in a little cheap tack here. And where that footage is, well, I'm sure if you've watched my previous videos, you know where it is. And like on a typical cluster install, just not enough slack on these wires. I was able to get the leads to the charge gauge connected easily enough. Then a little bit of twisting and finagling and up over that little drive gear indicator. Finally got it into the housing. Then the fun part of reaching into the dash, behind the cluster, and try and get that little plug into place. I'm trying to get this plug here, which connects to the back of the cluster. There's a little key and notch, so it can only fully seat one way, but the problem is it does partially seat without the notch lined up, so you can kind of get the connector on a little bit before you realize you have it wrong. And this led to a bit of a problem I had, which you'll see later. But once I did have it all in, lined up and connected, I came out later in the evening to test that the lights work and everything after I had added that bezel back in. And oh boy, it illuminates so much better. Look at those gauge needles. Those things really stand out now. So right now I'm just slightly wiggling the key. And the key needs to be in just the right spot for the accessories to be powered. And that's why I'm swapping out this switch later. It's not fun to have your keys wiggled while you're driving and then your lights go out.
Several days later.
Alright, another alternator delivered. Fingers crossed this is the correct one. Aha! Now that looks right. Everything on the back matches up, along with everything on the front. Let's get this bad boy installed. Now, even though I did add a new charge cable going to the battery, I still am connecting to the old wire because this feeds most of the cab accessories. I do actually end up taking out this wire later, but that's quite a few videos down the road. And these two wires for the external voltage regulator, so long as all this repairs works, they'll also get removed. Alright, time for another lap around the block. Oh my god, look how much play is in the steering. Still need to get that fixed. But I finally have 14 volts inside the cab. And here's a great example of my constant GoPro issue. The frames just lock up. So I don't have a shot of the charge gauge still not working. But we do see in this little frozen frame here that now my temp gauge has stopped working. 2 steps forward, 1 step back, right? But that's enough for this episode. Let's go ahead and check in on that list. Looks like I only get a cross off the alternator. However, that does finish off the whole charging system section. And for the cluster, like I said, probably need a new gauge. and I need to investigate the temperature gauge also. For the next episode, finally fix that loose steering. And while I'm waiting on those new cluster gauges, I'll go ahead with the new battery and clean up a little more wiring. So, I'll catch you guys in that episode, and as always, thanks for watching.